Welcome once again to our morning devotions, experiencing God through the seasons of life. Our devotion this morning is going to come from the book of Esther, chapter 4, verses 13 and 14. And the title of our devotion is For a Divine Purpose. I'll read in your hearing. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, "Think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then there shall enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed, and who knoweth, thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this." May the Lord add a blessing to the reading of his word. The whole story of Esther tells us the purposes of God who are greater than what we think. Here is a young girl orphaned and adopted by her uncle who raises her as his own. I want to urge and maybe ask if we are also doing our duty to take care of our orphaned relatives, if we are taking care of the children that answer to the same name as ours. Where are they? How are they being raised? Are they scrounging for life? Are they scrounging for food in the streets? But Esther was one lucky young woman who was taken in by her uncle. Just as she is growing up into this beautiful young lady that we read about in the whole story of Esther, there is something that is also happening at the same time in the king's palace. The queen has been dethroned and the king is looking for a new wife. And just as the king is looking for a new wife, Esther is also picked as one of the girls to go and parade before the king to see if she can become the queen. But Mordecai is seen parading the king's gate often just to make sure she is fine. Even though she has been taken, he wants to make sure that she's fine. And because he's parading the king's gate, there is a commander, an army commander, who was so desirous to be saluted. But Mordecai does not salute that because he is of a different nation. They salute to only one God. And this puts the whole nation in jeopardy. Their lives are about to be destroyed because Mordecai has refused to bow down to Haman. And Haman makes a plot to kill everyone. And this is where we see Esther coming in as the queen, as the new queen in that kingdom. Right on time when the nation of the Jews is about to be annihilated, that's where we see Esther coming in. God's purposes are so amazing because they are exciting. Here we see an exciting period. It is known in the kingdom that if the king has not summoned you, you cannot go before the king. But because Esther carries the favor of the Lord with her, she goes in the courtyard, and when the king spots her, he raises his scepter even before time. And you know, when protocols are suspended, you can only know that this is God. And when protocols were suspended for Esther, the history of the Jews changed. Even tables turned. Mordecai was supposed to be killed, is not killed, because Esther, who carries the favor of God, is in the presence of a king whose law cannot be changed, whose laws are cast in stone. But we have this young lady who was orphaned. You would feel sorry that she was orphaned, but who knew that in that young little girl was the salvation of the Jews? Here was this little girl who is now standing in the gap for the whole nation, for everyone to be saved. God's purposes, like I said, they are eternal. And his power flows in the stream of his purposes for our lives. And when Esther went before the king, God was just, it was right on time. She was the right person to be before the king at that time, and everything just went smoothly. I don't know why we have these young people orphaned amongst us. Could they be carrying your salvation for some situation ahead of you? Even if they are not, but what I know is that God declares ownership over all these orphans. He says, "I am father to the fatherless." And there was no way God could not stand with Esther, who had humbled herself and had even called the Jewish people to say, "You fast for me when I go before the king." And we know that she believed in the power of prayer, even though she was in a foreign kingdom, in a pagan kingdom where they worshipped the pagan gods. But she did not lose sight of who she was, even though the king had his own gods. But Esther remained loyal and faithful to her God, and we see God coming through for her in this time of need, in this very scary time where anything could have happened. They could have been killed. But Esther, because her identity, even her name means hidden, God had hid her and only to reveal her when she was needed for such a time as this. And you know what? God designed each and every one of us for a purpose. And when you don't deliver that purpose, when you don't live according to your purpose, you make everyone suffer. But when you live according to your calling, when God has given you an opportunity like he gave to Esther, every one of us gets an opportunity to stand in the gap, to even become what God designed us to be the salvation of others in so many different ways. And I want to thank the Lord this morning that we have a God who designed purposefully. His purposes are eternal. His purposes are exciting. His purposes prevail. It is purpose that sustains us. And Esther was sustained by her purpose for such a time had she been created. And for such a time where her circumstances permitted to meet the need of that time. May the Lord bless you.